Mental health, a delicate and often stigmatized topic, casts its shadow over countless lives. In a world where silence suffocates those who battle within, one brave soul dares to confront the invisible struggles that plague their mind and heart. In this story, we shed light on the journey of the struggle with mental health, self discovery, healing, and resilience.
I had an average childhood growing up. My mom left her marriage when I was 4. So primarily I was brought up by a single mom. She moved back to her parents' home. And so typically I grew up in the well-defined extended family of an African setup. And having said that, my dad was active in my life until when I was 11. So basically, I grew up in an average family. I went to school, and I think where I can trace this back is that as a young child growing up in the city of Nairobi with the hustles and bustles, you almost are given the narrative that life is linear. Go to school, get a good education, you'll get a good job, get a good marriage, get a good family, and the cycle goes on. But really, I don't think anybody really prepares you on the hardships that you will face as you transition from childhood into young adulthood into adulthood exactly. And for me, my mental health battle started when I joined Daystar University in 2019. I had just completed my 3-year diploma course from Kenya Institute of Mass Communication. And at the time, I was working at Kenyatta University Television under the production department. But I went home and I told my parents, I want more. I want more for myself. I want to be bigger. I want to be better. But I was given an ultimatum that for you to go back to school as an undergraduate student, I had to quit my job, quit living on my own, and move to Athi River campus. At the time, I remember I was chasing my job at KTN, and it really didn't make sense for me to quit all this to pursue my degree. But again, at the time I was really young, and I remember thinking to myself, because my education is being funded by my parents, let me just do this. So 2019 May, I go to Athi River, I join first year, and life begins. I really didn't like my life there. And therefore, there were very many tiff moments than there were joyous between my parents and I. And I inclined my life towards alcohol. I remember, and up to date, because I'm just recovering from this, my joy is typically stemmed towards alcohol. My pain is numbed with alcohol. So anytime I had a big celebration or I had an achievement, I basically turned towards alcohol to just feel good. And when I felt pain, I turned to alcohol to numb the pain. And primarily that is where my mental health began. And I remember looking back, and my family, it was so devastating because it was really sad, I think, to watch me go down the drain. Because as a child growing up as the favorite, as the child who conformed to rules, as the child who followed the laws and regulations set, it was really sad to see me move into this fearless fear where now I was being rebellious and I wanted to prove a point to my parents. But it is up until 2023, which is like 2 months ago, when I had my first psychotic break, and that pulled me towards getting help and knowing that therapy in Kenya works, and therapy is one of the very many ways that can lead you into finding help and putting yourself up into recovery. So I had lost a couple of friends right through this journey, And one day when I was really high, I had threatened to take my own life. And up till that point, that's when my parents came in and said, you deserve the love and the comfort and to find help. And I believe up to date, and I live with the mantra that because I survived and I lived that, somebody else will live that.
Once I realized Wendy was going through mental health issues, I'm her friend. So it's been quite a journey that we've walked together as friends. It's been a journey that has been full of a lot of emotions. But as her friend, I've made sure that if she shares her stories or she's going through a mental breakdown and I'm supposed to support her, I do more of listening and more of judging and making those situations relate to other life situations. So this has really created the friendship between us, in that at first she wouldn't speak about what she was going through, but recently as we've walked the journey, it's become easier for her to open up and to speak about what she's going through. So as per now, we're just being with her, praying for her, guiding her, and just showing up for her, because I think those are the basic needs for somebody who's going through such a situation. So if you have a friend, make sure you're there for them, you check up on them, you regularly learn their triggers so that you don't get to trigger them throughout any season they're going through in their life. Yeah.
It is estimated that 1 in every 4 individuals in Kenya is affected by a mental health disorder at some point in their lives. Mental health issues significantly impact the younger population in Kenya. Around 20% of adolescents in Kenya experience a diagnosable mental health condition. Some of these problems include depression, which is one of the most common mental health disorders in the country. Approximately 1 in 10 Kenyans suffers from depression. Another is suicide, where rates, often related to untreated mental health conditions, have been steadily rising in Kenya. According to the World Health Organization, Kenya had a suicide rate of 6.5 per 100,000 people in 2016. Finally, a less often spoken one about is post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, which is very prevalent considering Kenya has faced various traumatic events such as political violence, terrorist attacks, and many others. In our quest to learn and understand mental health better, we visited Brandon, an online therapist, at his home.
Hey, my name is Brandon Anthony, also known as Brandon Be Happy, and I have a nonprofit called Santana's Foundation. What we do is we provide free therapy and food all around the world. We have about 7 locations right now, from America to Africa. And I got on this journey, through my own recovery and through my own healing and therapy. For me, I actually had a long battle with alcoholism, which ended up with me being homeless for over a year. And it really just took a lot of self-care and self-love to be able to start meeting myself where I was, and recognizing just some of the intentions and versions of myself I had to meet. I decided to actually do this publicly through an app called Reddit and a show called Recovery Road. And my journey to healing was actually so, I guess, just transparent. It ended up affecting about 12 million people around the world. And from there, we were actually, very gifted to have actual therapy organizations start reaching out, helping me get certified, and helping me just speak to other people. And so today, I help people with transitioning, and really sitting down with some of their biggest triggers, some of their biggest holdups, their constraints, and try and help them find liberation. And so really it's a process of just letting go of who you are and believing in who you could be. So that's what I do. So I think the biggest thing for self-management when it comes to any version of growth and transition is recognizing that you are already your own guru, right? And when I say that is, a lot of us try and create categories for what healing is and what healing isn't, right? So some people might say like, oh, I've been drinking, that's not healing, right? But when we're actually paying attention to self-management, we can sit down with the reality that we were drinking for a reason, right? So we were drinking because maybe of our anxiety, we were drinking because of our frustration, and so this was our first version of healing, right? And so when we really start talking about self-management, it's actually sitting down and recognizing, well, how much self-management do you have today, right? And how do you get it? So you might get it through drinking for 2 to 3 hours a day, right? And then allowing ourselves to recognize that my healing practice or my self-management for healing is about a 3-hour practice every day. And then allowing ourselves the freedom to say that, all right, I conditioned myself to believe that alcohol was one way, and now I can condition myself to believe that yoga is the other way, right? And so it's really just allowing ourselves to constantly celebrate our truth and just find ways to transition inside of it. Best thing is you cannot spot anybody in their mental health. Mental health is a personal journey, right? What looks like drowning to you could look like swimming to that person, right? So first off, just taking a step back and recognizing that the only person we can even try to diagnose is ourselves, which we can figure out through others, right? We can ask about our patients to our friend group. Do you think I'm patient? That could be helpful, but you can't diagnose somebody else with it, right? And so starting off there, and then once again, just allowing ourselves to be as soft as possible, to recognize like the identity that we're inside of today is not the only version of us that exists, right? And if we have any interest in seeing another version of us, then it's just going to take a little bit of change. So to explore the change that you're looking to see. So if you're looking for me, you can find me on all social media at Brandon B.E. Happy and online at santanasfoundation.org. And the reason why I'm just open and vocal about my journey is because, yeah, I believe that I'm not the only person experiencing what it's like to transition and to even expand and grow. So I think it's helpful for not only myself, but millions of others who look like me to just start being able to take the leap and believe that it's okay. All right. So yeah, thank y'all so much.